Hello everybody and welcome back. Another episode of Minecraft from the Mindcrack vanilla server, and some people are probably watching me right now because of Crack Cam. I don't think it's anywhere around me at the present moment, but I logged in. I was going to go with some resources before I started, but I noticed this, and I don't know what's going on. Who put some holes in the front of my house? Some weird lag going on. It's gonna cause some weird issues there too. Let's see if I have anything to cover that back up with. I do. Has a piece of sand. I'm not sure why. That's fine. Once it goes up, it should. Oh, it's gonna. Still, wow. This is laggy as hell. Not sure why it's so laggy, but either way, I was gonna make my way back to old spawn, but I really wanted to work on these walls actually, because I want to get these walls completed and looking pretty and looking good, and before I leave to actually make this look like more of a house as opposed to anything else. And then we'll head back to main spawn at some point, which is going to require me to cut down some trees. I don't think I need the birch as much as I had originally thought, but I don't have any more dark oak planted, and I think I need more dark oak because I'm using the logs, but I think I'm going with the oak, dark oak. That's what people seem to agree with that they liked. The birch and other oak, or birch and regular oak logs looks good as well. Or spruce, excuse me. It's the spruce wood. Or wait, what am I using here? Spruce wood planks. Yeah, it must be spruce. So it's oak and spruce that I'm using, but I need to get more spruce trees. There they are. My spruce saplings. And some bone meal to grow a said spruce saplings and get more of the spruce. I probably don't need that much more actually, but I just need more wood in general. So we'll go on and do this. Now, folks, I got a lesson for you, a life lesson. If you take nothing else away from my series, take away this. No, it's really not that important. But it's just something that it's the lag is real. Oh no, I'm not rendering anything, I'm not doing anything, but the lag is definitely real, and I don't quite understand why. Let me give this server a little reset here. Not just the server. Let me give the server a reset. I have the power. Let me give my client a reset here and see if anything that I can do there will help this out a little bit. I'll be right back, folks. Well, we're back. Let's see. Nope, the lag is still real. I guess we'll have to deal with the lag for this episode because I don't know what else to do other than deal with the lag or not record. And it's been a while since I recorded on here, like about 3 or 4 days, so I don't want to do that. But basically, when you go through life, make sure you look at things, any situations that come up from multiple different points of view. Don't just take them from the persona that you think it should work, therefore when it doesn't work, somebody else must be doing something wrong. I got some examples of that. It's very frustrating when it's, especially when you get in a position where you have to quote unquote argue with somebody. And I don't mean argue as in like, oh, I'm right, you're wrong, blah blah blah. But when you're trying to explain to somebody that something that's going on isn't how they perceive it, and they need to, open their mind up and look at it a little bit different way. A lot of people have a problem doing this because if something works for them, a lot of times people will assume that it will work for everybody, and it confuses them when something that does work for them doesn't work for everybody else. So at my place of employment, there's multiple different ways that information gets disseminated to different groups of people, different, organizations, different departments, etc. And everybody deals with communication in a different way. And one thing that we already know and we struggle with every day, because there's not really another good way to do it as quickly and efficiently as using email. But when you're trying to get something out to like the bedside nurses, the quickest and easiest way to do it is you send an email to either the nurses themselves or their directors and have their directors, post stuff around. We already have established at our organization that there's a problem with this. It's the bedside nurses themselves don't read their email like they're supposed to. I mean, it's not part of their daily routine. Like, granted, there's a policy somewhere that's like, everybody should, you must read your email at least once a week. And once a week to a lot of people is going to sound like, wow, I read my email like multiple times a day. Once a week seems like it's nothing, but this is their work email. I'm sure they read their personal. Oh, yeah, wait, Chad's on. I can't sleep. Oh, wait, and the crack cam's on. I can't sleep at all, can I? Crap, I can't sleep. I'm stuck building in the night. I guess while we're stuck building in the night, I can... I don't want all the saplings to go away. I want to collect these saplings, and we'll go in and we'll start working during the night. And we'll come back out when it's daytime and deal with the replanting of things. I just want to make sure I have enough saplings to replant. We should be good. I think I have a bunch more. Oh, no, I don't have any more oak saplings. You know that? I don't. So let me grab... Oh, that's a birch tree. Let me grab a couple more oak saplings. So, like I said, we already know that inherently, you know, that bedside nurses, they don't read their emails. It's their work email. They don't use it for anything else. The only thing it's used for is information to get spread to them. But it also fills up with a lot of information that they don't care about. There's a lot of emails that get sent out to all associates, and it's, you know, hospital statuses at certain points when we're in, you know, critical override, max capacity protocol, all these different things that the average bedside nurse does not really care about per se, enough that they have to keep checking their email. So then they go back through, and as the policy dictates, even if you do check your email once a week, in the mix of this once a week, week's worth of emails that you're going through, you're wading through a lot of garbage, quote unquote. And I'm not saying that it's garbage. I'm just saying, in your opinion, it's going to be garbage because it's not relevant to you. And therefore, you end up with all these different emails that you're not looking at or missing important things or whatnot because it's stuff that's not relevant. So that being said, like I said, we already know that's a problem. And it's one of those problems where you try to put, that's not where these go. You try to push it off to like the management and their directors who are supposed to read their email like every single day on a regular basis, because that's what we do a lot of communication to them. So that's a slightly better way to do things. However, even that being the case, we don't have an, oh shoot, is this supposed to be there? That is. So let's go like that. There we go. That should be good. And then, what do I want? 3? 1, 2, 3. I think that looks like a good number. It's going to be a little bit weird and staggered. Somebody also suggested I put, oh, I didn't mean to do all those, but I did. Somebody suggested I put like stairs in the top and bottom as well to make it look like a little bit different of a look, like the wall came in. And we can go back and do that at the end after I check this out and see if it actually looks as good as I want it to. But either way, so sometimes we don't necessarily get the directors to get things out there in a way to the nurses that it actually like works for them anyway sometimes. So long story short, inherently we know that there's a problem with email communication on the general population for the bedside nurses. However, when it comes to the directors and the leaders and things like that, it's kind of an expectation that we read our emails because that's how, like I said, a lot of the stuff gets communicated and disseminated out to us. So we are more expected that we have to read our emails on a regular basis. Now, unfortunately, what comes with that, especially if you're in like a position like mine, I get a ridiculous amount of emails on a daily basis. So every day we're talking anywhere like 100 emails is a low day for emails that I get while I'm at work that I have to wade through and see if I need to respond to them or not. Like, they might be a lot of garbage. It might be a lot of stuff in there that is not useful to me because, yeah, I still get the garbage emails too, or quote unquote garbage. They're really not garbage to somebody, but to me, they're garbage. So, you know, I have to sift through those and make a choice on if it's something I need to follow up with later or read now or just ignore because most likely it's not going to be relevant to me because it never has been in the past, and move on with what's actually important for my operations. Now, unfortunately, there's some things that come through that are dissemination of information that is kind of important. However, even though it is important, doesn't mean it's necessarily like life-changing to me or change what I do. It will give me some information about some things that are going on. And I unfortunately have gone for a while after reading a couple of these. They come out, it's a big PowerPoint form as well. They call things like slide decks. So the slide deck comes out it's not a small slide deck. And I'm not talking like 50 or 60 slides. I'm talking like 10 slides, but it's 10 slides full of information that some people feel that that is the best way to get this information out there. And some people utilize it and read it weekly. I think it comes out. They read it weekly to get their information that they need to get. And it's recently come up in my department, because it comes out of my, like, the main group that I'm in. It comes out of that department, and a lot of it is actually for us as well as the unit directors and things like that. And it got brought up in a meeting like last week that only 1 or 2 people that are in our department, the leaders of our department, are actually reading this thing. And the person who makes it was like, what do you mean you don't read it? And then my boss, it was funny. She was like, honestly, I just don't have time. She's like, it doesn't have the information in there that I know is critical to my day. So I have to move on and make a judgment call and read something else. And this like baffled the person who makes it, because she thought it was like the most effective way of ever you can get information out there. And then I admitted that I don't read it either. I said, I've read it a couple times in the past, but I just don't have time to read it anymore. It's never been something that's been super relevant to me or changes what I need to do. So therefore I made the call that I don't read it unless somebody absolutely tells me that there's something in there that I'm going to need to see. I just won't see it otherwise, because it's not something that is been shown to be quote unquote worth my time to read. It's all about time management. It's a lot of work. A lot of school is about time management. And I don't mean time management in the aspect of how to get everything done. Time management is much more than that. Time management is how to get everything done, as well as how do you find out what is not important and doesn't need to get done. I remember I told this to my sister once. It was, I don't know, it was Christmas break. I was in college, and I went home, and I lived like local, but I lived at the dorms, but I still, lived local. So it was like a 20-minute drive for me to get back to my parents' house. And it was Thanksgiving, and it was, I don't know why, my sister was in a really bad mood for some reason. She had come home from college as well. She went to college somewhere across this, I can't even do that because the lag is too real. She was somewhere across the state, and she came home, and I went home, and I was having dinner with my family, and it was the day that we got done with class. It was like Wednesday of Thanksgiving, and we actually had classes on that Wednesday. And my mom was like, oh, how were your classes today? And I said, actually, I went to 2 of them. I said, and I left before both of them started. And at the time, I was in college. I was partying up pretty hard in my fraternity house and things like that, having a good time. I was passing fine. I was getting a really good GPA. And in this instance, there was 2 classes that I had showed up to. And about a minute before the class started, I looked around and realized there was like me and 1 other person in this course. Granted, one of the classes only had 5 people in it total. And the other class had probably about 30 people. And me and some other dude were the only ones sitting there getting ready for class. And I realized we're not going to get much accomplished in class today. It wasn't just a lecture class. It was a class where you actually had to do things, and you usually did like group work and stuff in them. And I realized, I made the call that being here in this class and wasting this hour as one of the only people here is actually not going to be conducive to my learning experience. Therefore, I'm going to go home and take a nap, or I did that for the first class because it was an early class. And then the second class, I just decided that since I was heading home, I was just going to head home a little bit early and go hang out with my family a little bit early. There was absolutely no repercussions that ended up coming out of that. The instructor was actually upset that nobody was in class, but it wasn't that I wasn't in class. It was that nobody was in class, essentially. Because I think that one guy ended up leaving too. He said he sat in the first class. Oh, no, the second class is the one that only had 5 people in. And he said he sat there, and the instructor came in and started to like lecture for a second, or started to the lesson plan for a second, and looked around and he goes, dude, if it's just you, this is useless. Just go home. And he ended up canceling the class. So theoretically, it could have worked out better for all of us, because had I been there, he might have done a full class and expected everybody who wasn't there to also have caught up with all this classwork that we missed. And now instead, class was essentially canceled. So maybe I did people a favor. That's how I look at it. Time management. I was helping other people out. But either way, I'm at this dinner, and when I said that to my mom, it was so weird because my sister and I get along really well. We didn't used to. We went to high school together. We're only a year apart. We're actually in some of the same classes in high school, and we were, not exactly friends at that point. We were more like, I was her embarrassing little brother, and, blah, blah, blah. But either way, I said this, that I, wasn't, okay. Let me be smarter about this. There we go. That's smart, right? I am a genius. Yeah. Woo! Make it rain. And do this again. So when I said this, my sister looked at me. I swear to God, it was like a look I had never seen on her face before. She looked at me like I was the absolute worst person that has ever existed. And she says, "You are the dumbest person in the world, Jeffers." It made some comment like that. And I can't even remember exactly what she said, but it came out of nowhere to me. And I looked at her and I was like, "Excuse me?" And she's like, "You are so dumb. I can't believe you would act like that. You're so irresponsible. You obviously didn't even come from this, or I have no idea how you came from this family." And I looked at her, my eyes just like, in shock. I didn't know what to say. And I started laughing, and we're sitting at the Thanksgiving table. I just started laughing like pretty hysterically because I couldn't believe those words came out of her mouth. I was, in my senior year at the time of an engineering degree. It's not that I had proven myself to be dumb because I was had failed out of college or something like that and was wasting all my parents' money. I had a job as well. I hadn't asked my parents for money and, probably got that whole year. And at that point, for a while, I was still relying on my parents, help with college because I didn't have time to work when I was like a freshman and things like that. So now I've realized how the school system goes. I had a job that I was paying my own bills with. I was paying my own, not tuition. My parents were still paying tuition. I was paying my own room and board at the fraternity house. And I couldn't believe that my sister would say this to me. And I looked at it and I just straight up said, "It's time management." And she's like, "What do you mean it's time management? How can I not get this to place right?" She goes, "How do you mean it's time management?" And that's when I straight up said, I was like, time management is not just about, fuck you. It's not just about how to get everything done. It's about realizing what you don't have to do to succeed at getting other things done. And I said, the other thing I wanted to get done today instead of going to class was come and spend time with my family. And I said it like that in like a dickish way because I couldn't believe that she was so evil to have, said that I couldn't come from this family because I was so irresponsible. And long story short, and I don't get in fights with my family or anything like that. Dang it. I don't get in fights with my family or anything like that. But I called a friend of mine. I finished up dinner very quickly and I said, "Okay, guys, sorry about it, but I'm going to leave." And my mom was like, "Oh, no, don't go." Because I don't think my mom had ever seen me leave the house before because a family member had pissed me off that bad. And I was just like, no. I was like, I'm not going to sit here on a holiday that I just spent, I just came home to have dinner with the family. I said, I'm not going to sit here with a holiday with her with an attitude like that. And I left. And I don't think I spoke to my sister for months after that. We didn't speak often anyway at the time. She lived across the state. I'm not one of those people who calls my sister all the time and says, "Oh, Brooke, what's going on? Love you, miss you." I mean, we were close when we're, it's a nice delayed reaction, Chad. We were close now, when she's back in town because she still lives on that side of the state. And when I go back to Michigan and she comes back to town, we go hang out at the bar. We have a great old time. We get along well now. We just didn't at that point. And yeah, that was the only time I've ever walked out of my family's house. And I even told, it was so funny. I felt like such an adult that you see in those movies. And I was like, "Mom, it's nothing against you. I love you very much." I was like, "But I'm just not going to deal with this. So I'll see you later. I'll come back tomorrow." When she's gone. And I left. And I think my mom was really upset and hurt. And I have no idea what that conversation was about. But yeah, time management is a whole different thing. So getting back to the original point of this story, went off on a cool tangent there. I like it when stories all play off of each other and I can draw from experience. But so there's this slide deck that I was talking about, and like I said, my time management for the most part tells me that it's not something that I read. It's not something that fits in my workday. And my boss felt the same way, and then other people started coming out, and it turns out only 2 people read the slide deck on a regular basis. And after that, this person who makes it kept saying, every time she gets a chance to interject, she would interject with saying, "Well, if you read your slide deck, you would know that." And she would say something, whether it was related or not to what we were actually talking about. That was up for question. But, sometimes they were, and granted, sometimes they probably truly were in the slide deck. But it was still something that wasn't, that crazy to me or anything like that either. It was just something that, I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And she's like, well, if you read your slide deck, you would. So this happened, like I said, last week. And sadly, though, I'm going to need a new axe. Let me go get that before I get started going up that tree. Sadly, though, a couple times, the two people in the department who actually do read that thing and say it really helps them and it helps them, understand what's going on in the organization, they've both been making these statements randomly that, you guys really should read this thing because this is where the information's at. And if you just read your slide deck, you would understand and blah, blah, blah. So they keep making statements like that. And they said it again yesterday. And then it got brought up. They were talking about the slide deck, but they were also talking about how the nurses and the directors of the units aren't reading the slide deck, which is why they're not getting some of the information that they need to get, and how they were baffled enough when they realized that people in their own department didn't read the slide deck that they couldn't figure out why the nursing directors weren't reading it, though, and were basically asking my boss, who was one of the people who straight up had said that she doesn't read the slide deck either because she doesn't have time, basically asking to make it almost like a disciplinary type of action to start getting the unit directors to start reading the slide deck. And finally, I just had to say, look, you're upset that we don't read the slide deck because it's even from our department and you feel that we should read it. We've explained to you why we don't read it, and you keep going on this tangent about why you want people to read it and how you want to now make it like some disciplinary thing for them to read it. I was like, why don't you focus on the actual problem at hand here and figure out why are people not reading your slide deck? We've already told you why we're not reading it. Find out why other people aren't reading the slide deck and make it something that they want to read. Well, but it puts out all the information exactly how I want to put out there, and people can understand it from that perspective. And I said, yes, you're missing the point. People might be able to understand it from that perspective, in the perspective of you. But we've already established that they're not. They're not reading it, therefore there's not something to understand. You need to stop thinking about ways to force them to read the slide deck and find out ways to get the same information out in a way that's actually not going to be intrusive to their workflow and in a way they're going to be able to absorb and see this information. You can't force them to read something. Like in theory, you could make a disciplinary policy that's going to force somebody to read something, but that's not going to be the effective way. It's not effective leadership. If people aren't doing something that they're supposed to be doing, you don't just say, well, they have to do it, and that's all there is to it. That's a downfall we do have in the medical industry, though, is because, especially with the EMRs, and that's one of the old problems I had when I worked in this department before, is that was kind of the philosophy of upper management at the time and our department, the people in charge of my department. They really thought, I've heard on numerous occasions, well, that's how we designed it. That's what they have to do. There's no way around it. It's just, we designed it that way. They just have to conform. And no, that is how things are going to go poorly. And people need to understand. What you need to do is basically, the lesson I'm trying to get at here is, it doesn't matter how smart you are or how well you think you put something together. If it's not effective, it's not effective, and you need to find out what is not effective about it and make it effective so it actually works for the people you're trying to get it out there to. When you've just in the last 2 weeks been told by multiple different people, including people in your department, that nobody reads this thing because of whatever reason, we don't have time, it gets lost in the junk email, whatever it is, you need to come up with a better solution as opposed to just sitting there and saying, well, how do we force people to do this? No, it's not about forcing people to do it. It's about putting something out in a way that it is harder for them not to read it than it is for them to read it. That's the ultimate goal in things. And I think sometimes that just gets lost. It so gets lost in the understanding because people forget to start thinking from somebody else's perspective. They assume if it works for them, it's going to work for everybody. And the thing is, it works for you. You can sit there and read it. For one, you have time to sit there in your office and read it. You have an office job where you're sitting there. Granted, you have a bunch of other things to do, but you have way more time to sit there and read it than anybody else does, especially when speaking of the bedside nurse, and you know what information's in it because you put it out there. So you know what's in it already, and therefore you know if it's important to you or not. The other people, there very well could be some very important things in there that I'm going to miss if I don't read the thing. I'm going to try my hardest to read it when I have a chance, but it just doesn't always work that way. But I also try to pride myself on the fact that I try to look at things from the perspective of the target audience. And that's the thing I don't like about organizations that I love about any business that's out there trying to sell a product. Because if I'm trying to sell a product, I don't just tell the consumer, this is what I built, you will like it, that's all there is to it. Of course not. That's not the way it works. You wouldn't sell any product if that's the way it worked. You have to make a product that somebody wants to buy, and therefore they're going to buy it. And if they buy a product that they realize they don't like, you either need to try to remedy that situation or they're going to return it and not shop from you again because they're going to realize that they dislike the products that you have. I wish most businesses just in general could be more like retail, or, just a business. Let's pretend we have something to sell. And granted, in a way we do. We always want return visits from patients, which sounds really sad because it's like saying, I want that patient to get sick again and come back. But no, if they do get sick again and they have to choose what hospital they go to, we want it to be our hospital because that's the way we make money. So there is a portion of that in the medical field, but not to the same way of, like Apple with the iPhone and the iPad. Why do you think they got so successful? They made a product that people wanted. They made it extremely user-friendly. People loved it. They loved the looks of it. They wanted it. They wanted it bad. They didn't tell them, this is the product we have. You have to buy it. That's all there is to it. It was, hey, this is one of many, and we're going to do everything we can to make you want this more than you want, like an Android or, a Windows phone or whatever it was big at the time that they were competing with when the iPhone first got started. Pretty sure it was Windows phones. It might not have even been anything, actually. It might have been one of the first really robust smartphones. I can't remember off the top of my head. But either way, you understand where I'm going with this, I hope. I've kind of run out of wood. Not completely run out, but kind of run out. I'm going to get some light. Damn it! Why didn't you guys tell me I messed this up? You guys are jerks. Thought you guys were my friends. Instead, you're just going to let me sit here and make this thing all off and have your OCD going crazy. I personally would leave it there, but I know you guys would hate me if I left it there. You guys would absolutely hate me. You would probably, make that crack cam come over here and just stare at the wall until I got it fixed. I can almost guarantee. And there. And I would need one more layer right there. That's going to be right. Correct. Yep. And then 1, 2, 3. I have to get it up there. At least make it even. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Nope. That wasn't right. And I'm almost out of these anyway. I do have to get the, I don't know if I can get this to go up far enough. Oh yeah, it should still be fine. Because in theory, it needs to come all the way up to here. I'm going to cover, dude, Enderman. Get out of here. I'm going to cover this. There, just in case it springs a leak. Okay, I'm good to there. How high is the ceiling over there? That's it. Beautiful. That at least lines it up, and now we just got to see if I want to keep it like that or not. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story, and I will see you in the next episode.